Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another
What's good?
wonderful week of Radio Melee. What's up, Magi? We got Magi on
Yo,
finally.
yo. Finally, yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna do this several weeks ago. Oh my god, my video is being choppy again. I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
Let me make some sort of attempt to fix it.
Oh,
Okay.
wow, that was instant.
Yeah, we get things done fast around here. You know, we like speed. We like speed
Yeah,
here at the
yeah,
Home
you know what they
Guardians. Yeah,
say.
you know what they say. I had the good pleasure of hanging out with you a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
when you were at Town Throwdown. That was like 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, time is a construct, so I don't
Yeah,
remember.
time is a construct. That's true. That's true. And it sounds like, right before the episode, we were just chatting a little bit in our Discord call, getting
Mhm.
set up. So it sounds like you and PP, this is kind of your first time meeting,
Yes,
really,
yes,
or
Yes,
talking.
officially,
I should
yes,
say
yes.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
super it's funny just 'cause, like, same character, you kinda expect to,
Mhm.
like, do that, but I don't know, I
Yeah.
literally it's just, like, it just never lined up.
Yeah, birds
I've
of a feather, sometimes they take a while to flock together, that's how it
yeah,
goes.
you know what
Hmm.
they say.
Yes.
Gotta extend the saying a little bit.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's exactly how the saying
Yeah,
goes.
was definitely super excited to have the opportunity.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
likewise.
Mhm.
You're doing great things out there in the community,
Mhm.
Magi.
Thank you.
Stream popping off,
Mhm.
even more lately, you've been on the grind for that, and the tourney
Thank you.
results have been coming in too, so,
Yeah.
um, kind of tying that all together, I think my first question for
Mm.
you,
Mm.
um I want to hear about your melee journey, but
Mhm.
we have the opportunity to bring you on, and as someone who is affiliated with the transgender community, who
Mhm.
is transgender
Yeah.
themselves, I'd like to know how your search for identity melded with your melee search, because there has to be a unique quality to that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was interesting in the beginning. I have a very funny answer for this because, how do I start? I would say that one of the biggest things that I did as a kid was dissociate a lot. I like
Oh,
very much didn't like I didn't feel very I didn't feel like myself, right? As you would kind of expect. Like I wasn't able to transition very young. So I kind of had to learn to detach a lot. And that actually did help a lot with melee because through like in the very, very beginning, I did like I was very closely identified with my melee results. Like it was almost like everything was put aside. I mean, I was like like online school. I didn't really focus on school, but I was able to cheat, so I didn't have to worry about it as much. And so I really got to put a lot of effort into melee, and I was mostly a local player in Louisiana, of course. So like the resources were a little limited, but I still cared a lot about my results, and like whenever I lost, it definitely felt like, oh, I failed as a person because this is the only thing I care about, and that's all it was. And I think strangely enough, I whenever I started learning about detaching from results, I kind of learned to view myself the same way that I viewed myself, kind of as like I viewed myself as like a character, like an NPC or like an entity, and like it would be very easy for me to detach from like my own situations and kind of view it from like an objective standpoint. Like, oh yeah, it makes sense for someone in this position to be struggling with this. Like that was like a thing I said to myself a lot. So I was always able to kind of like empathize with myself, and I think that eventually did kind of help me with melee because I was like, oh yeah, it makes sense that I would be struggling in melee in this sense. Like I would lose this set because I didn't study it, and like, or if I did study it, this person did something that I wasn't really prepared for, or just like that weird learning to view myself as just like a generic like filler person in the situation, I guess. And I think strangely enough, gender did kind of my issues of gender kind of helped with that. um
can I ask a question really quick? Because
yeah,
there's a lot of really good stuff in there,
Yeah.
and so I hope you don't mind if I cut
yeah,
you
of
off for
course, of
just a
course.
moment. It almost sounds like you were able to kind of use something that seemed maybe more like an issue with detachment before, and you were able
Mhm,
to kind of take the positive from that and be
mhm.
able to use that. Of course, I'm not encouraging anyone to
Yeah, yeah.
dissociate. I'm
Oh, so
just
yeah, I
saying,
also say that as well.
yeah,
Don't dissociate for melee's
right,
sake, please.
right. But there is the detachment element that
Mhm.
is important to take it and look at it as it is.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of point out, how important that can be to finding yourself just in
Mhm.
general. I mean, you're
Right.
you're trying to figure melee is good for that. It's good for helping you learn about
Right.
yourself. So I
Right.
wanted to point that out and highlight that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's weird because I've always kind of been able to like it's a weird way to define it, but like it's almost like I see the tech skill and everything. So like dissociating is not a great thing to do, but like if you break it down into the mechanics of what it is, I think it's easier to kind of like use it. It's like, yeah, okay, like this is bad for this reason, but it's also like it's also there. Like, I mean, dissociating is kind of like a human like defense mechanism, kind of. So like it
Right.
is kind of built to do like what it's like, what it was doing for me, which
It's
was like,
just
oh,
overachieving.
yeah, yeah. It's like yeah, it's like it's dissociating is bad in like the day to day because like you're obviously like you're it's bad for a lot of reasons. It's hard to sum up like all the reasons why
Right,
dissociating
right.
is kind of bad, but like I think when you break it down, it's like, oh yeah, it's like to kind of help you deal with really hard things and also like
Mm.
uh it's interesting. Like it's really hard to describe it all, I guess. But um, I think regardless, like growing up, I didn't really have a choice. I didn't have a
Yeah,
choice to like
right.
not
Mhm.
dissociate. Like I couldn't just like fix the issue. When I grew up, I was able to fix the issue, and I stopped dissociating so much. But
Right.
I think at the time, like I was able to just be like, okay, like let me, because it did help me a lot. It did protect me when I was younger from not feeling awful all the time. Like
Right.
dissociating wasn't the best feeling, but I think in a way, like because I was able to break it down into what it was, and then once I started learning more about like how to not have results based thinking, it kind of like those two things
Mm.
clicked together, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, wait a second, this like actually helps a lot. And anyway, this was all from me saying that that ended up helping me a lot in Melee because
Right.
I ended up like I detached from my results a lot, and it helped me. I guess another thing that I'll start if I can go on to another
Yeah,
tangent.
please,
Oh
please.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. I kind of have the I'm very very stubborn, and I kind of have my my main strategy for most things is to beat my head against the wall against it. Like Dark Souls, Pogo Stuck, like all of those games. Like I'm very down to like do an attempt of something, and for me to not really worry about how it ends up, but for me to just try like a new thing. Which helps a lot in Melee, right? Is like if I'm willing to like throw away a friendly in order to just like try a concept that someone just told me to do, it's very easy to instantly feel like, okay, cool, I just did the thing. Here's what happened. Let me try to estimate if it was because my opponent picked something specific or if I did something wrong with the thing. And I'm it's almost like I'm able to kind of like dissociate from like the whole like the idea of like playing a friendly and trying to win it and like almost actively being in like the fight and just looking at like 100% like, oh, this is a simulation of the situation, let me try to focus on the results of
Right.
that situation. And I think all those combined really really nicely together because when I was in Louisiana, I went to locals every week, and we did a Swiss format.
Cool.
If you guys don't know, or the viewers who don't know, it's just a format that I won't explain the whole format, but basically, instead of playing a double elimination bracket, you end up playing like 6 sets guaranteed into a
Mhm.
double elimination bracket.
Right.
So there was a lot of like information that I was able to just constantly just try to poke at like all the time, and especially if I like just came off a week of experimenting with like a specific thing, I would just I would have a lot of time to just keep trying to like head against the wall, like try out all these concepts and trying to like find some sort of like rhythm that worked with it all. Um and and yeah, I think it just ended up like dissociating, beating my head against the wall, and Melee results all kind of like perfectly came together to really help. And that helped a lot with my improvement journey because I just never felt like I plateaued at any point in my life, which was like a weird thing
Mm.
because I hear that so often that everyone talked about like, oh yeah,
Right.
I'm like plateauing, but like it just never made sense to me because it always felt like there was just like a thing to do because it's
Mhm.
like, I think
Mhm.
one thing I was lucky like early on, I was never able to like tell myself like it was the game's fault or that like, oh, like I did everything I could. Like a lot of time I would just usually think like, oh, Armada would hit me there, or oh, Armada would have hit that there, something like that, like
Mhm.
some sort of
Mhm.
like idea that like there's no way this is complete. Like I can feel it, and it's definitely like that was not the game's fault. Like that was 100% my fault, and I could like
Right.
experiment more. And yeah, big
There's still
tangent.
something more to do. There's still like something to work on. So
Right.
you can't feel like you're satisfied. That's really interesting to hear because like
Hmm.
okay, I think for me, like obviously and probably for like a lot of people like from out of region and such, like the
Hmm.
first time we heard about you was obviously Genesis 6,
Yeah.
where you had huge breakout win over
Yeah.
Mega,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And but I mean, when did you start like just to set the timeline here,
Mhm.
like when did you actually start like playing and like grinding Melee for tournaments and stuff like that?
I started in
What year was that?
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
I'm a
sense.
doc kid. Like I was a doc kid and I played PM for 6 months first, and then I moved on to Melee in
Aha.
August of 2014. I remember that date. Mhm. And
Gotcha. And
Caused
it's
you to switch.
it kind of just died. Like
Okay.
PM kind of died off, and like actually, well, funnily enough, the story was that there was a specific tournament that you had to pay $20 to enter the venue, and it would enter you into any amount of events you would want to. So in order to get the full amount of money, you would have to enter Melee doubles, Melee singles, PM doubles, PM singles. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna just throw away $10. I was my friends had also been bugging me to play Melee for a long time, or like the 6 months leading up to then. So I was just kind of like, well, like whatever. We do like a weekly like Smash Fest on Wednesdays at a card shop. So I was just like, whatever. It's really easy to pick up Melee at this point, so might as well. Um, and I got very lucky that someone was just I played Link in PM, and people referred to me as a technical Link player at the time. And they were, but I was always intimidated by Fox specifically. So someone was like, "Oh, just pick up Falco," and I was like, "Okay." And
That's
it
the
just so
classic.
happened to line up perfect. Like everything about Falco's playstyle lined up with like I think the way that my brain works. Like it just, and I like going fast. Like it was just like this perfect coincidence. It was great.
You think better than Link in PM?
What do you mean?
Like the way you felt like Falco clicked with
Oh,
your innate,
yes.
really?
I think I could apply the concepts that I learned from Falco to Link, but like I think the way you play Link is just like different than how you're supposed. Like I'm pretty sure I don't play Link right. Is like I
Link,
still believe that. Like
Link doesn't have a Magi up air. That's the
that
problem.
is so true. Like Link has like, so the thing I like about Link in PM is that his fair is neutral on shield.
Ah.
So like there's like this hypothetical is like, yo, you just like do like late fair on shield with Link, and then you'll like start your pressure sequence, but like he doesn't like, there's no like pressure sequence that happens. Like you kind of just have to hope that they respect like your jabs and shit, and that you can kind of do some like, you can do like, it's almost similar to Peach where you can do like fair into grab, but he has a tether grab, so it's slow, and like
Ah.
there's just like all of his options are very committal, and it's like it almost clicks with my brain. It's so close, but Falco is like, oh, I have pressure, great. Like I actually can like
It's more
do
real.
stuff. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it was like I always needed to shine. Like the Magi build needs to shine in order to work a lot of
And
the
you didn't
time.
even realize that until
Right.
you started playing Melee. Yeah.
Honestly, it took me a lot longer of a time to really because I also have this weird habit of solo maining. Like in any game I play,
Yeah.
like I usually just pick one character, and like I'm like very stubborn because it's like it's almost like that weird like no, I can tell it's not the character's fault. I know it's something that I need to fix. And so like I stuck with Falco for a long time. Excuse me. And I didn't really understand like how well he clicked until like way later, like honestly the past like 2 or 3 years. Like it, I think it's something finally clicked. It's like, oh, it makes sense, this actually like ended up working out, because I think there was definitely a universe where someone told me to pick up like Marth instead, and I may have had a lot harder of a journey because I would have been so stubborn, but also like I might have been like too stubborn to like learn properly like what I was supposed to do, because I think I was stubborn enough to play a certain way, but not stubborn enough to like leave the character in order to go to a character that works out. So Falco just kind of happened to fit perfectly into that space, I guess.
Well, good deal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of good information, I think, for people.
Mm.
The PM to Melee pipeline. I think we've heard
Yeah.
about it a few times on the show.
Mhm.
Very strong.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so I think that's a great overview. If someone
Yeah.
somehow doesn't know Magi, I think you got
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot better idea of who she is
Yeah.
now.
Definitely
And
got in my stream of consciousness.
yeah, if you guys have any questions about Falco, anything related to the community, identity, anything else, please exclamation radio Melee in my chat, Toph's chat. Come on into the Discord, submit topics here. We'll see if we can bring you in, ask questions for Magi or any of us. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. And while we wait for some people to come in, let's just keep Q working behind the scenes here, and let's talk about the community voice, Toph. What do you think, man?
Yeah, we had Void. I believe that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time off. Radio Melee, but Void was basically asking about alt players, melee players, and in particular, what was the question again? I always forget. I always need to see the responses.
It
until I
was the
remember
streamer
exact
question,
word.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Oh
was
yes,
such a
If
good
you could have
question, by the
seen
way.
Any player, if you could have seen their rise, for example, there are a lot of players that really didn't start streaming until recently. Who do you wish you could have seen more of, or who do you wish you could have seen at all? So we got Maelstrom 218. It would have been great to see some of the older Japanese player. Oh yeah, that would.
I love this answer. This answer is
really
good.
fascinating. Bomb Soldier and Brown Mario were doing things with their respective characters that were miles ahead of American players at the time. And only a few matches were distributed early on via LimeWire. Over 56K. Man,
I was
LimeWire.
actually I'm too zoomer to have ever experienced LimeWire.
Did you use peer-to-peer at all?
No, I didn't have access to a computer till I was like 11.
That's right. And the correct
to.
answer is none of us use peer-to-peer. It's illegal. We would never.
So true.
Wouldn't download a car.
So true.
That was a
Wouldn't
test,
download a
and you
car.
passed.
You passed. Congratulations, Magi.
Yeah.
That's right. No one would ever do that. No one would ever do that.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. If they were streaming what an age of melee. Yeah, it's funny because Japan as a community, they have always kind of largely moved to whatever the new Smash game was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so like when Melee was, these days, of course, you've got AMSA, but like there's way more activity in like the Japanese Ultimate scene than the Japanese Melee scene, obviously, like more so than honestly probably anywhere else. But what people forget was that in the early days of Melee, Japan was incredibly active and also incredibly good.
Yes.
So yeah, that would have been really sick to have more. There was very little cross-pollination back then. I mean, there were arguments about, people kind of like de facto say, well, okay, I guess Ken was probably the best. I mean, he did win that one tournament, but it's like,
it is
it's
one
kind of
tournament.
crazy thing about it was one tournament over the course of like 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
There's so much history that kind of got lost there. So yeah, that's a really cool answer. Saint Vong saying Silent Wolf Second Mistakes was really funny Intel stories. Well, if pre-retirement Silent Wolf had streams similar to current Mango, I'd watch it all the time.
This answer is crazy to me because he did stream.
Yeah, but I guess they mean, now that there's net play more and
Yeah. I guess streaming has a different connotation nowadays.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's true, and he does still stream for what it's worth. He does still stream speedrunning on speedrunning content on a fairly regular basis, I think. You can read Andrew Kenny.
Sure, let me go for it. And this is a pretty good answer. I was reading through it earlier. It would be hilarious to have video archives of Mewtwo King painstakingly gathering all of the frame data with Twitch chat contesting every call, and they would. Are you sure that's 5 frames? It looks more like 6 frames, TBH. It's 5 frames. Look at where the laser is. It's clearly 5 frames. It's not 6 frames, or the laser would be over here. And this person is absolutely right. It would be, I think it would make things harder. I don't think it would make things easier.
It would just be cool to have like the archives of it. But like that does sound like very, very, very miserable. Like I get mad when people tell me what to do in like Dark Souls. So I couldn't imagine like trying to excavate.
He was doing stuff with like he would have his hand on one controller or part of one controller, hand on the left part of the controller. He used his foot to do one thing, and he's like and imagine he's reading the chat, right? And they're like telling him, no, it's over, and he's got to try like pause and unpause like so many times to get it perfect. No, man, I feel upset for him reading or just thinking about it.
Just thinking about it.
It would be kind of funny to tune into for a few minutes if he just said, "All right, you do it then," or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot more pressure nowadays, I think, to be kind of entertaining or to like incorporate the stream. It's hard to really. It's rare to find content that's just like, oh yeah, I'm just at my computer doing this thing, and like the stream is literally on, but I'm not like thinking about it at all, and I'm like, it's hard to like not think about it. It's like a bunch of people watching, so
yeah.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful for at the time we kind of needed for streaming to not be there for Mewtwo King, I think.
Yeah. If everything worked out like it was supposed to, and now streaming's able to provide for people. We're able to do entertainment and have people grow, which is awesome.
Yeah, but it definitely certain things had to be the way they were, I think.
Yeah.
Mewtwo King, there's just no way that it would have gotten. There's no way it would have gotten done.
Or
also,
maybe
I don't know. Maybe it would have. Maybe it would have.
Yeah.
I also just feel like Mewtwo King himself, like he's so much more social now than he was back then. Like,
That's
you know,
true.
I even wonder if it would have been that if he would have been that talkative or that entertaining back then. These
I don't
days, of
think he would
course,
have talked. I don't think he would have talked.
He may have
he would
just
have been
not
very
streamed,
focused, you know?
also might have been the answer. He might have just realized,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, wait, this isn't working. No one's watching," or, like, "No one's, like,"
Yeah.
or, "This is really annoying because people are watching and they're telling me what to do." So
I
That's
don't even
true,
think
you
he would
know?
think about that. I think he
It's
would just turn on the
funny.
stream and forget about it, and
Yeah, and
then
forget about it.
yeah.
It's funny because uh I feel like with Mewtwo King, if I understand the timeline correctly, I feel like he was, you know, he did all that work and compiled all the melee frame data, but I feel like it didn't really like become like the lore of that and like that happening and that becoming such a big deal.
Hmm.
You know, I feel like it took Mewtwo King getting really good at the game before people like truly appreciated all that work he did.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he made
That's really
all
true.
that frame data when he was still pretty much an unknown. If my
Mm.
understanding, I wasn't
That's
really around
fairly
back then.
true. That's
Yeah.
fairly true. He was still working on it some as he was improving, and so that was affecting things some. But because there was, I'm going to use a reference that no one is going to know, but because there was a guy named Super Doodle Man who also did a lot of the
Oh
similar
yeah,
stuff, but also made other things and had his own kind of YouTube presence back when that was
SDM.
barely a thing, or a Smashboards presence.
Oh.
It was harder to get as much traction for M2K stuff. But yeah, there was that as well.
Forgot all about Super Doodle Man. Oh my god, I wonder if he's still around.
I saw a mention of him in another chat one day, like recently, and I was like, "Holy cow!" A
Wow.
lot of
Yeah,
stuff
he
hit
made
me.
he was like the original kind of like, you know, practical task slash
Mm.
Yeah,
he
kind
would
of.
make those I mean he would literally do I think task break the targets and stuff like that, but he
Huh.
also did, you know, he had that like
The last great tier war,
perfect
it was-
control. Yeah.
Mm.
And perfect
he
control,
did
which is like
content.
those TAS tech skill montages and stuff
Mhm.
like that. That was content. That's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that stuff. And a lot of that stuff predated YouTube. I just navigated to his YouTube and like it's still here, but it's funny because the first video on the channel is actually Perfect Control 2. So Perfect Control 1 came out, I guess, even before YouTube
Probably on
Jesus, yeah.
the hub or something.
a thing. Probably, yeah, it was probably on the hub, which is kind of insane to think about.
Yeah,
But
this is all this super predates my time.
Yeah, so this is
yeah.
probably not the most interesting for you. Let's move on. Let's get Magi involved here, and good community voice. But you know what? I think we're ready. Let's bring in our first caller.
That's right.
Oh,
And
yeah?
as a reminder to anyone else, if you wanna get on, really simple exclamation mark made it radio mail in, you can talk to all of us, me, PP, and Magi.
Mm-hmm.
Really easy process.
Got our first caller
Welcome to
now.
the show, Slublord.
Hey
Hello.
guys, thanks for having
Hey,
me.
what's up?
Where are you calling in from, and what's your question for us today?
I'm calling in from the beautiful city of Denver, Colorado.
Very nice.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
Denver's great.
Nice.
Shout out to
Uh,
Denver.
I was just
love
in
it.
Colorado. It's so pretty. It's just
It
a
is.
pretty state.
It's super pretty, and this is actually probably one of the least pretty times in Colorado because it goes from beautiful snow and you can expect the cold to it being terribly cold one day and then 70 degrees the next. So you just never
yeah.
know what
One
you're
of
gonna
those
get.
places.
Yeah.
What's the mix?
But my question kind of involves sponsors for events and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So traditionally, and I'm a Slippy kid, so I
Mhm.
could be missing
Mhm.
some history here.
Mm.
Traditionally, in the past, for regionals, majors, there's kind of been a low sponsorship agreement level for majors. Like there aren't that many huge sponsors for events that we would see traditionally in maybe larger esports.
Right.
However, with this, recent development, we kind of have a $1,000 pot bonus a day in TMT, and
Yeah.
then Coinbase now does the Coinbox with Hungrybox for $2,000 a week.
Mm.
Which, if we think about it, that's a substantial amount of money. That's a lot more money than we normally
Right.
see from weeklies.
Yeah.
So the question is, do we think this is just a one-off time where TMT is going to be $1,000 for FlyQuest, and then Coinbase is 2,000, and those are going to be the two players in the market, or do we think this is the start of a greater trend of maybe more corporate money or quote unquote like dirty esports money coming into the Smash scene as a whole? And the second part of that question is, if we think it's a trend, how can more small or newer esports organizations that are in the Smash scene capitalize on the new corporate eyes in the scene?
You know, it's funny. I guess I can start us off here. I was talking to someone who worked in sales pretty recently, actually. They're pretty high up. They're like VP or something of sales at uh, yeah, let's just say like a gaming slash streaming related company. And yeah, they were basically explaining to me that like right now, okay, I don't know how much of this is like true facts or just them schmoozing.
Yeah.
But they were basically saying that for some reason, for whatever reason right now, sponsors, and when I say sponsors, I don't mean esports teams and I don't mean publishers. I mean like, brands like Colgate or Coca-Cola, Verizon, like they're for some reason are actually pretty interested in like the 1v1 fighting game space right now. I don't super
random.
duper know why. Yeah, this was kind of like at like more of an in passing sort of comment. Like I didn't super duper dig into it because we were talking about a lot of other stuff. But if I had to guess, it's just probably seen as one. It's obviously a lot. Okay, everyone knows like wider esports is like a leaky ship. It's like a giant cruise ship, but it's
Yeah.
leaky, right? It's like leaking constantly, and no one actually makes money in esports, as it turns out. And so I have to, imagine that for some of these brands who see that, oh, gaming and streaming is this big thing, but like, how do we get in on that, and how do we do it in a way that like isn't, like
Leaky.
well, how do you do it in a way that isn't one extremely expensive, like you're pouring, like League of Legends franchise slots, for example, right? Like, or like millions and millions of dollars. I have to imagine that there's brands
Wow.
that are like, okay, we want to get into gaming in some sort of way that's like measurable, but like not breaking the bank, and also like, feels somewhat sustainable. I have to imagine that part of that is, you look at even, I don't know, like mid-size sort of events, like what Twitch Rivals is doing, and with some of those, like, those there'll be like little one-off events that like Twitch Rivals does that'll have some sponsor associated with it. I have to assume that like 1v1 slash like fighting game style, slash Smash events are like probably a good way for sponsors to dip their toes in and kind of get some sort of measurable response so they can decide if they want to move forward with gaming or not, right? But my kind of impression is that, a big part of it with Smash Brothers is like, and especially with Melee, is like, I think that a lot is gonna. I think that to really answer this question, it's gonna be real. One of the really important things is gonna be how the next year goes, in particular with the Nintendo circuit. And the reason I say that is because I think that as we've seen, well, we know this. This is fact that like over the years, there have been times when sponsors and esport leagues and so on and so forth have tried to get involved with Melee, but like, if you know that the developer is going to like pull out the rug from under you, it's just really scary to get in, right? You're like,
Right.
well, I'd like to invest in this, but who knows if it all gets shut down, right? So I think that like seeing what Nintendo does with the community over the next year, I think a lot of sponsors who might have been hesitant in the past are going to be like, oh, this is like a thing now that we can like get in on, and that's
Right.
going to be big. Or, it gets bungled somehow, or Nintendo's really, or it moves forward, but Nintendo ends up being really restrictive with the sorts of, sponsors they're okay with. And then, and then even if sponsors want to get involved, there's no way for them to do so. So I think there's a couple different outcomes there. I don't necessarily think. I think FlyQuest is doing something similar to what Golden Guardians is essentially doing, where they're, obviously I've never really talked to anyone at FlyQuest besides Kadoran, but I have to imagine it's sort of a similar story. Coinbox, I think Coinbase and crypto companies are just, I mean, everyone knows the whole TSM FTX thing. Whatever, crypto.com getting involved with, it's like, I feel like crypto companies in particular, especially these big exchanges, they just want to throw around a shitload of money right now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily representative of any other. I think they just want, like, they've got gazillions of dollars. They're just like, we need to get our money out there so that people get our platform. Like, that's all that matters to them. So I don't think that's emblematic or representative of anything else. I think for the sorts of sponsors you're asking about, Slumlord, I think the most telling is going to be what ends up happening with the Nintendo thing, because I think a lot of brands that are on the fence right now, that's going to be their make or break. So I'd be keeping my eye on that if I were you, and I am too, obviously, because I'm curious. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's interesting because I kind of had the same thought where Coinbase, I was like, they probably just have the marketing budget of like a god, and they
Yeah.
just have
Yeah, I
three
think they.
commas somewhere, and they're like, yeah, $2,000, whatever, man, who cares?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned Colgate at the beginning. Was that an actual brand that was brought up? Because
No, I
kind of
just-
wonder how
Yeah.
they would market.
I
No,
just,
of course
I just
not.
thinking
Smile,
of
bro.
brands.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking of brands in general, and Colgate, Coca-Cola. You know,
Right.
those always seem to
I
come
can't
up.
believe you would accuse Coke of leaking.
Applebee's esports, baby.
Applebee's, yeah, two for 20 entrants.
That's right.
So
That's right.
yeah,
Matt. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you go, PB.
I was going to ask Magi what she was thinking. So this is just a great conversational mess right now.
I honestly, Toph just kind of brought up everything I was gonna bring up. Like every single thing I had in mind, I was like, oh, he just said it. I guess I will answer the second half of the question though, which is how smaller weeklies kind of take advantage of that. I think you kind of just have to know people. It's like a little bit like I think that's always been the struggle with like the smaller organizations has always been like this weird I guess it's so hard for companies to like pick it just like to pick something like with Coinbase like I think they probably are in like they've talked to Team Liquid before and there's like a lot of resources there and a lot of connections and with Kadoran's or TMT like FlyQuest is also probably mostly involved with those bigger organizations. So I think organizations that just like raw don't really have anything except just the community, it's a lot harder. Like it feels more like a coin flip, honestly, if you like find someone. So I think it's really hard to say like how to take advantage of it just because it's just the frustrating result of how how connections and stuff are working like esports and whatnot. Like
Yeah.
I guess maybe reaching out is like probably the only thing I can even think of as like, oh hey, we have this tournament and it has these results, and I have like it's really hard. I think it's
Right.
because that was like the old thing with sponsors in general for esports or for melee players. Like it was kind of like either you had like you won the tournaments or like you kind of just had to know someone.
You had to know someone, right?
Yeah.
Don't they have agencies for this sort of thing? Like, isn't that what an agency is? Like,
This
an
is
agency
Yeah.
everything I was
supposed to
going to
solve
bring
this
up.
problem?
Yeah. This is such a problem I think for the space is not it's a self-replicating thing, right? We don't have a lot of connections, so it's harder to get money, and then we don't have money, and so we're not running the bigger things, and then because we're not running the bigger things, it's harder to make connections because then we would have right. It's all a big cyclical thing, and that's why agencies can help solve this for players. But we don't really have like a TO agency, and maybe that's something that we could make. I don't really know, but what Magi brought up was one of the things I really wanted to talk about was maybe we just got to reach out because you never know who might actually be interested. And I think remembering a few things I've read recently, Melee in particular can be a very good investment, but fighting games in general can be, and that's because it's not. You can at least argue, and I've seen it argued that some other esports, a lot of the larger ones, are very inflated and for whatever reason. But in fighting games, it's more you get like a realistic evaluation, and you get and in some cases you might even get in for cheap, and that could be pretty good. And we have a big outreach for everything that we've got right now. So that could be a selling point that you can bring up, and with what you bring up, hey, these are the numbers we're doing. And this is what we're asking. Maybe it'll be an easy thing to ask, and maybe it's like peanuts to the organization. But if it pans out well and it goes well, maybe like, hey, we'll do more. Let's expand. Let's do another project. Let's do something more often. You never know, right? So I think that's something that does. It sounds ridiculous, and I know it's kind of old timey sounding, but I really do think there is merit in just seeing what happens, because I mean, a lot of stuff has happened, and I've heard a lot in the esports space about just reaching out and, well, what, it worked out.
Oh
Yeah.
100%.
So you're with? Are you with All Chat Esports?
Yeah, I'm the founder.
The founder.
Yeah, I am
Toph.
one of the founders. Yes.
John.
No, I'm gonna call you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call you. Yeah, John All Chat, the founder.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you can call me Grant, by the way. Slumlord's kind of a long name.
Grant All Chat. Grant All Chat.
Grant All Chat. Slumlord Vickers is my full God-given name. But it's funny that we say just try to go and find out and see what happens, because All Chat is assembling pitch decks right now.
Right.
So we're we're trying to figure out, what angle do we want to take for these pitch decks, and what looks attractive to sponsors, and then you look at the landscape and you're like, well, they did something right, they got this, but then you go, oh well, they're Team Liquid, so they walk in with their 500,000 Twitter followers.
I'm gonna invoke the forbidden name right now, and I'm gonna say it might be worth your time to reach out to the Crimson Blur.
Yeah.
I've never had the pleasure of speaking with him, so I would love that. I've actually I think I made fun of him in Twitch chat one time, and he said mean things to me.
I
but
doubt
that's
he'll
warranted.
remember that, especially not after this video comes out.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
Yeah, but seriously though, I do think that our larger TOs have a lot more of a presence in terms of like they've got they've got connections.
Yeah.
And they've talked to the businesses.
Right. They've talked to the businesses and they've kind of done that homework. So that's probably for smaller TOs looking to sort of level up. I feel like leaning on the bigger TOs for those sorts of things is probably just prudent.
I will say also, if just like a random suggestion that I think also matters a lot. I think sponsors are really interested in content like on YouTube, or like if you have a presence, like if you have a presence in the community, that's one thing, but it's hard to translate that to a number that I think people really like outside understand. So honestly, you might just need to start spamming some YouTube like content about like the tournaments that you're running and stuff, and just trying to find like some weird like like some spot where you have like a big number. People really like the numbers. Like it's so important.
we quote unquote sold out on our YouTube thumbnails last week, and the difference in views is shocking.
Yeah.
We put like the huge white letters, orange background, new king of the salt mine, and it looked like Hungrybox was about to arrest Moki, and it's 10x the other video.
Thumbnails are crazy. Man.
Red arrows, everyone. Red arrows.
That's exactly
capitalized in the title. You know what it is.
Yep. Well, thanks for the answer to that. I will say someone brought up that it's kind of random that you can find someone that would sponsor you. All Chat has one sponsor currently, which is drop.com. And
shout outs.
Shout out to drop.com. Drop.com.
Shout outs.
Chat esports. Buy something on our referral code, please. Please. And we found our sponsor from Trash Talking in Rocket League.
Yep.
So
that'll do it.
Well, that's reaching out. So you are following the podcast. Love that.
Yeah. So it was a match made in heaven.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Well, wonderful question, Slumlord Grant. All Chat. Thank you so much for calling in. You got any shout outs for us on your way out?
It's
today?
like it really is just your name now.
I'll change it after this. But All Chat Esports. Obviously, we have the Salt Mine every Thursday, East Coast, Midwest, $250 minimum pot bonus. But the special thing for this week is we have a garbage connection that was just announced. Toph, I believe you're a confirmed attendee.
I am.
This Friday.
I think that's on Friday.
Yes. And that will also be on All Chat Esports Twitch. I hope you guys all tune in. There's stretch goals. So if we get more attendees, we'll add to the pot. It could be potentially a big one. This is a nice Genesis warm-up. East Coast has Salt Mine. West Coast gets garbage connection. So if you're not there practicing, you're probably gonna drown in pools.
Right.
So, yeah.
Good marketing. Well, hey, thank you again, and I hope you have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Peace
out.
Take care. Good first
All
question.
right.
Let's see what our second one is.
Yeah. Welcome to the stream, Quattro. Hello.
Oh, hello. Just have to mute the stream. How's it going?
There you go. How you
Doing all right. How are you doing? Where are you calling in from? What's your question today?
I'm calling in from Toronto, Canada. So, Great White North over here.
Very nice.
So my question is, what do you guys think about the current online landscape with VR? Since the metaverse looms closer, how do you think identity on the internet has changed over the years? And are there any VR YouTubers that you're aware of in the Melee scene that are worth watching, or do you feel like VR has a home in Melee? right?
Hmm.
Personally, one thing that I really love about Melee is like the mix-ups, and I love seeing that the person's or the player's personality come through when they play. Like watching Wizzy, even Magi play, she's so fast. I love
So
it.
fast.
So I'm just wondering like what do you guys think about VR and identity and all of that?
Hmm. Um,
Well,
VR. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Or VR including VTubers. I'm assuming that's like the only real thing I know. The only connection I have between Melee
Yeah.
and VR right now is
One
VTubers.
100%. I
Okay.
have a little more follow-up questions if we have more time, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. It is a interesting match made in heaven. I think sometimes where like I guess like the Melee. I guess it's just kind of a streaming thing, but like
Mhm.
people just really like watching. I think it's just the juxtaposition or like the contrast of like the anime girl playing Melee. Like it just
Yeah.
kind of like works. Like there's just
Yeah.
like there's been a few Velparia like stopped streaming a while back.
Ah,
But
I was gonna shout out
yeah.
Valparia.
Okay.
But
sorry.
even with Cat and Mick2D, both of them are I think they're both still streaming.
Nick is still
But
streaming. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think it does have a home in just like I, I think that duo of anime character and like playing like I think Melee is like known as like a hard prestigious game, and I think people always like they just kind of like that. So I think it's always gonna have a little bit of a home, and plus like I think just the nature of Melee's like streams, like Melee streams are generally just like someone grinding on ranked and like talking to chat, and I feel like there's like there's a good synergy there, but I'm not sure how it's gonna go from there. I don't know if y'all two have more to provide on the topic.
Yeah, I don't know if like it's weird for me to consider because when I think VR, I think of like 3D,
Mm-hmm.
like you've got a
You got the headset.
Oculus or something. You've got a
Yeah,
headset. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I guess naturally part of it is, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't have, I guess it shouldn't have to be like the player or whatever is putting on a headset and walking around the
Right.
3D world. I guess if you think about it in terms of streaming, then yeah, I mean, if anything, yeah, I remember like I feel like for how long Valparia was at it, like her stream was getting pretty big, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
I definitely had a good time watching those streams. I don't know that anyone's really like integrated the more like three-dimensional, I guess, side of when
Yeah.
when
Like
I
you
think of VR.
put on the headset and you're on FD against Mars.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
sucks.
you're literally getting
Where's my
chain
Uber
grabbed.
driver taking me?
Yeah. That, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to, because I feel like with regards to the game itself, I don't feel like there's ever really going to be that much of a connection because it is obviously a
Ooh.
2D game. It's an older game, but I mean, maybe
Oh,
I'm
I
thinking about
see.
it the wrong
I
way.
wonder. So my brother's kind of into VR stuff, and he talks a lot about like music fests with like, you go to
Yeah,
a concert.
yeah.
It'd be kind of
Yep.
interesting to see if there's like some tournament viewings,
Oh, like you could
like a
be in a
VR
tournament
chat.
VR.
That'd be
See,
kinda
that would be cool. That's
cool.
what I meant.
That'd be
That's what I
kinda
meant by the game.
cool.
Like with the game, I feel like
Yeah.
the game is always
You
gonna be
can't
this
really
2D.
play the game. Like being inside Yoshi's is probably
Mhm.
going to be a lot more distracting. But watching Melee with like a
Watching
bunch of
Melee.
homies in a VR chat sounds kind of lit.
The
That
new,
sounds
new
lit.
Summit
Yeah.
VR VIP pass gonna go
Get
crazy.
in on that VR chat
Oh,
community.
that's actually a sick idea.
Ooh.
Well,
It actually is such a good idea.
Someone did something like this. There was it was the start of COVID, so 2020, I guess, right? And Evo got canceled, and someone made a VR. I remember seeing someone made a virtual reality 3D like a venue for the Mandalay Bay or whatever
That's godlike.
Wow.
top 8 Sunday theater.
Ooh.
And like I don't know if they did anything with it because like I don't remember. I think that Evo might have literally gotten canceled that year, but
Yeah.
like yeah, you could easily imagine like, oh man, I can't go to Evo this year, but I can sit in the crowds next to. Yeah, I think that's kind of the point I want to make was like I think the game, I don't see the integration, but in terms of spectating and the spectator experience, I feel like there's a gazillion ways that could be kind of expanded upon. Yeah, that would be really cool. Or like imagine you're at like some kind of like gaming bar, but it's like a VR bar.
Yeah.
They got it on screens or something.
That's definitely I think
That'd
the
be
way
cool.
it could be integrated for sure. I think
'Cause- Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
Good,
tournament
good.
experience is very much like what people talk about with like FGC events, like in general. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
like I'm here for the tournament, but it's like I know like a lot of I forgot what documentary or like what video I was watching, but it was talking about like, yeah, like this is kind of our church where we kind of just like come together and like view this thing and it's super sick and we all have a good time. And like I feel like that experience is something
Yeah.
you totally could capture in like some sort of VR simulation. Like, you know, it could be interesting. Like, I'm sure VR has a lot more like potential of like making the viewing experience even more like reasonable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes being in the back of the crowd and not be able to see the screen very well is like kind of.
It's
I
kinda
guess in
lame.
VR you probably could just pull it up on like on your VR
Right.
device. I don't know.
Pull up Oculus or Vive or something.
yeah, exactly.
Or even imagine like, yeah, for like something like TMT, like
Hmm.
you know, that's the big thing with locals is that as more and more locals move online, you know, okay, online tournaments are kind of cool because like they're convenient, but
Mm.
yeah, you don't get to see people and you don't get to sit next to people. And I don't know.
Right.
Imagine the venue literally opens up and there's a 3D venue that you can
That'd be
log
kind of
into.
sick. You go to NetPlay Weekly and like you have to put on the headset and there's like
Yeah,
CRTs to actually use it. Shit, that'd be kind of wild.
You can
like,
walk around like like
Hey, we
Kalindi's
gotta-
there with like a LeBron
I'm
avatar or something.
pissed. I'm so
you
pissed
know.
with seeing Kalindi there. like instantly try to start
Even
a
in the
fight.
virtual world,
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So I mean that'd be cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like that's pretty awesome. Like, you guys got me thinking because like the old Vive headsets are only 120 like hertz, right? So if you guys get the new ones, then you could theoretically play Melee in VR, like just like with on a floating screen. So like even as like a player experience, like could technically work. I don't know. Thinking about there's just so much to mull over.
It'd be really it's like as someone who knows nothing about VR, this is definitely like what I would like without really knowing what VR chat is. These are just my ideas of like, oh yeah, hypothetically if VR existed, this is how I would imagine it. So I don't know how well it would translate, but you know, it sounds like it'd be super sick.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's a lot more content creator like skewed because I feel like Melee is more. A lot of the fan base is more geared towards like the pro play and you know the tournaments and stuff. So I feel like there is a little bit of a place where, like you said, like the VR tuber, we could see some anime girl, you know, down throw needle someone. I'd lose I'd lose it if I saw someone down throw needle. Ugh, crazy.
Yeah,
that's
you said
already
you
a
had
thing
some.
that's been happening.
Yeah, that's true. You said you had some like follow-up questions. Is there anything
Yeah, it's
that-
a little bit more like again tangential, but I was like thinking more of like how I don't know, like how the models themselves could be expressed, like how even Melee players can express themselves in their own V2 models. Because I know in other fighting games, like Sonic Fox has his own like persona that's like a really big part of his FGC presence. So I was wondering, do you think we even see like a VR pro player somewhat like that?
I like the LeBron idea.
Yeah, Kalindi with LeBron is funny. I actually technically do own a VTuber model. I just never used it. I
Bust
just
it out.
Really?
yeah busted. Maybe it's time to bring it out. But you know, it's definitely cool. You know, I guess like I'll throw the trans thing again. A lot of trans people feel a lot more comfortable with like, you know, using VTuber models or like those to like help represent themselves whenever they like just don't feel like themselves. So that's definitely I think one way that at the very least like I think I've seen a few, you know, trans VTubers like in the works and streaming and stuff. So, you know, I think, but I also think, God, it would be funny if Plup had a VTuber model. I think like someone like him, like he could really,
He would be a shark.
He would be a shark. Yeah, exactly. Or maybe he would be like the Twitch like smile emote.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of I guess there is like a lot of like content potential with that too. It's interesting. I think I think for a lot of people, it's just like a little bit of work. They don't really feel like it, but you know, maybe that's it's on the rise, like just around the corner. I'm sure it'll just take like one big VTuber event happening in the Melee community for the memes to start. Maybe that guy
I
who has
really
like
agree with that for sure.
Yeah. Maybe the guy with the VTuber gun model or whatever will start like using like a Falco model. Actually, wait, didn't Leffen use a Fox VTuber model once? Am I crazy?
I'm not sure.
That does sound familiar.
I think
Although you might have just like whatever Mandela affected or not Mandela effect, but whatever affected it into my brain. I guess that is Mandela effect. Anyway.
Yeah.
I know. I definitely love the idea of seeing Mango as his like weird Falco banana character.
Oh God.
Yeah. Really funny.
Yeah.
No, I think those are all the questions I have for today. You guys have been great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for the question. Definitely. I don't know. I mean, I think right now the only limitation really, I mean, it feels like the technology is there. It's just
Yeah, I
that
think it's the technology.
Yeah, I
not
think
everybody has
someone just
not
do it. Just try it out. See what
Yeah.
happens. Shit.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get the VR chat to like. Maybe you'll get like this whole other like. That's the new. That's the next era after the Slippy Kids is the VR chat kids.
It's the
Oh
new
my.
frontier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Beautiful.
shit.
Well, thanks for the question. Any shout outs you want to do on your way out today?
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to Sauce, the link main from from Ottawa.
Oh, love Sauce. Yeah,
Yep,
he beat me in
yep.
tournament.
The
Oh,
first time
dear.
I ever played in tournament, like I was doe-eyed, 2014, fresh doc kid. I show up to tournament. I'm thinking I'm going to take a stock, a game off this
Yeah.
guy. Now washes me completely, and there I just
Mhm.
love the game ever since. So shout out to that guy.
Wow.
God,
He's
like,
an amazing player. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
really amazing player.
When he beat the moon, I popped off at university. I was like, let's go.
Yeah. He had a lot of good wins.
Mhm.
I used to go to a lot of those Canadian tournaments back that he
Oh
was
yeah, I
active in.
forgot. Yeah,
He was insane. He was really, really
that's
insane.
godlike.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, have a good day. Thanks
Yeah,
for having
you
me
too.
on.
Thank you. Take
Have a
care.
good one. Peace out, Quattro. All right. Time to get our next caller in. It looks like we have two. Okay, so it's gonna be Joshi the Yoshi man.
Yoshi the Yoshi.
Wow.
What's
I think
up?
you were one of the people that I had to guess what your main was or something. Was that-
Yes, that's true.
Welcome to Radio Melee.
Hello.
What's
Hello.
up? Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us
Uh,
today?
I'm calling in from Belgium,
Oh, very nice.
and
nice.
my question is that so a friend of mine, I don't know where it was. I think it was on TikTok or on Instagram. I'm not sure. He saw a melee tier list, and
Oh,
then he
dear.
said, "You play Yoshi, right?" And I said, "Yes." And then he asked me why he's so low and why I play him if he's so low. And then I told him that it's like not about playing the best character and playing the character that you fits.
Mhm.
And he asked me why, like, what if I want to become the best player in the world? Do I have to pick a top tier? And I couldn't answer this. I couldn't answer this question for him because I didn't know.
And you
Mm.
think asking Fox and two Falco players that also plays Marth will bring you a solution?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can figure it out.
Oh man.
It's always this is definitely the question that has been endlessly echoed through time. I think it is kind of hard to answer. I have definitely I have definitely I exist under the idea that in order to be the best in the world at like a game, you have to pick the character that like fits like, you know, that you have the most fun with, the character that's actually going to get you to like wake up in the morning and be like, yo, sick, I want to play Melee because I want to play Yoshi. You know, like I think that's like I think if you pick a character solely for the purpose of trying to win, it's a lot harder in general. So in the very least, I'm under that impression, and I have a hard time answering the other question about like, you know, do you need to like pick Fox or like the top 8 characters? Like I don't know, probably I don't know. It's like it's honestly it's hard for me to imagine it or to pick all of the factors because there's so many things that like have to like happen in order to be the best in the world in the game. I think that like it's hard to just like pick one specific thing that'll like be the this is the reason, this was the final like hurdle, like after all of the other things you got good at, this was the last thing is it was just your character, you know. It's hard. I honestly don't know. I also think with Yoshi in particular, you know, we're still in an era of discovery. I think Melee is kind of going through its weird like access to computers like chess did, where like we're just like not like literally, we didn't have like this moment where like AI took over and like showed us how to play Melee, but like I just feel like the resources are at an all-time high. Like the I think the willingness to discover things has also been kind of at an all-time high. Like I don't know if that's like really true or not, but it feels like everyone, especially with this is kind of tangential, but for a while, for example, Louisiana, we had like a kind of like that specific play style. Like I think a lot of local areas that don't travel like kind of have their own little like hubs of play styles and like ways they play. But I feel like with Slippy, there's like this weird like general like everyone had access to the meta, and now everyone's kind of learning like those rules of like what to expect when you go out of state. Because a lot of time Louisiana, people would be like, I don't care, like whatever, I'm not gonna travel. But now you're like, you just open up your computer and you're playing against someone who's playing like that out of state standard, trying to win style, I guess. And so I think we're kind of in this weird era of everyone kind of getting better in a larger way. So I don't know, maybe that'll be like the store that, oh shit, Yoshi maybe is like a lot better than we think. I don't know. It's hard because I guess this is still just about like the end goal of like top play, and like it's just hard to answer that because it's so complicated once you get up there. So I don't know. I don't know. Is my
Yeah,
answer.
I super agree that like the path to the top is more. I feel like when you're starting off, you say like, okay, I am going to do this, and I'm going to practice a lot and get really good, and that's my plan. But a lot of things happen along the way. Like, for example, you might say, I want to play this character, and I'm going to get really good because this is what motivates me. I really want to play Ness or something. I really, really like Ness. I really, really like the concept of this little kid that runs around and has psychic powers. And you're playing, and you get better and better. And the thing about Melee is that I think, people don't. There's a lot of things that I could say here, but one of them is like people don't just play top tiers because they're good. They also play them because they can do a lot of things. They're fun, and
They're
the
so
more you
fun.
learn about Melee, right? Like Magi, you didn't play Link in Melee. You played.
I played Link in Melee for about a month, and I was like, wait a second, this is not fun. And yeah, maybe that's like also as a small extension, just to quickly interrupt. Like I think over time, you'll like if your journey becomes like, if you're playing Yoshi a lot and you realize that people are going to play against you a certain way and you're not having fun, then maybe switching to the other character will be like the way you wake up in the morning. Like, okay, cool, I feel like I'm having fun with the game again. Just as a small
right, and like with improvement in Melee, like part of it is you see this with I think some low tier players is like once you learn more about the game, you might say to yourself like, wait a minute, I actually realize now that I've seen. Because the better you get at Melee, it also becomes easier to pick up other characters.
Yes.
Like it just, you experience high level play, even if it's not you doing the inputs. It's almost like the mirror neuron thing where you're like mirroring what you see. Like if you're playing against enough really good Foxes or Marths or whatever, it actually just becomes easier to pick up those characters.
Yeah, right.
And I think you get good enough to where you wake up one day and you say, wait a minute, this character actually fits a lot of the things that I really want to do anyway.
Like the Link Falco thing.
Like the Link Falco thing. Yeah, and so I would say to a new player, like, just because, like, if you really want to play a character, say Yoshi, for example. I mean, first of all, Yoshi might literally just, Amsa might literally win a super major tomorrow, right? Like, we don't know.
Yeah,
so it's really hard to say.
That's what makes it even harder. If you played Ness, this would be an easy question to answer. It's like, hell no, you can't be the best.
Yeah,
of Ness. Like,
you can't be the best of Ness.
But Yoshi is like perfectly like in this weird like.
Like maybe, maybe.
We're very close to discovering, I guess.
Very, very close to, yeah. Like if Time Traveler from 2 weeks from now came and said, "Hey, Amsa played out of his mind and won Genesis," I'd be like, "All right,
oh, yeah, there he is. There he goes."
I believe that. I don't know. That's not that weird. So, I would say you should try it, and but keep your mind open. And I think the biggest pitfall, if anything, I think the biggest pitfall with low tier mains fall into is not that they're playing a bad character, but that they fall into mental traps regarding their character. And so like, I always seem to observe that, for example, like you look at somebody like Zane, who's one of the best players in the world. Like Zane can pick up Roy and beat top players, but like, I think it's much, much, much harder to, obviously you have Lag who's doing, similar, like really impressive things with Roy. But I think generally when you take people who, I see a lot of people start playing a low tier character, but they like, I don't know if it's a factor of them blaming their character as they play more and more tournament sets, or they just kind of get used to losing in a way. Like they get used to, you kind of like set an arbitrary sort of limitation for yourself. And I find that a lot of the time the best players of these mid-tier, low-tier characters are actually not even their mains. Like Mango's Mario, Scorpion Master, or Zane's Roy, or like, Hungry Box's Ness, right? Like I would probably be more scared of Hungry Box's Ness than your average Nest main, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like I think it's a lot of the time what actually is holding low tier mains back is not necessarily even the character, but the mentality of like kind of resigning yourself to being a low tier character main in a way. It's this weird trap.
Honestly, if you look at like, I think the best example is like Axe. Axe never has ever believed that it was Pikachu's fault, or he never like really. It feels like he never doubted Pikachu. Like so, like he always, whenever anyone talks shit about him, he's like, dude, no, like this character is like godlike. I will show you. Like trust me, just give me time and I will show you. And I think that's the mentality you're gonna need to like hold. I think is. I don't know 100% if Axe is like ever going to be the best player in the world, but I do know that like he's doing the right path if he is going to be. Where like you just have faith and you just keep fucking doing it. Like it's fine. Like I'm gonna get there. Like whatever, like that is the route. If it does exist, you just have to have like almost blind faith, because like there are so many other things you have to learn along the way, and if you have like that distraction in the back of your head constantly of like, oh, what if it's my character's fault, then that'll get in the way eventually for sure. But if you have a clear head about it, then honestly, I also think that like a lot of time with Melee, it's the most fulfilling part about it is what you discover with yourself, not with what you discover about like being the best in the game. And it's cool if you do like become like the better you get, the more experiences you get to experience, and you get to learn more about yourself in different layers. Like, I think a random specific example, but I think Cody's discovering a lot about himself right now after he won Summit and he did poorly at a local. He's like kind of learning a new layer of Melee and himself because of it. And so I think like, I don't know, there's just like honestly, I think my answer is like, in order to be the best, like you kind of just need to not worry about that and just keep like taking it one step at a time, and then you'll discover over time like maybe Yoshi is the problem. Maybe Yoshi is like not even like the 20th problem in the line of things that you're queuing up for like your journey to being the best. And honestly, maybe being the best is the friends we made along the way.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Man, we really are. This is a very anime-filled episode.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, BB? As someone who actually was the best for a time.
I will say that you guys, I just want to reiterate the tiers thing in Melee matters a lot more than a lot of more modern fighting games. The tiers are very stratified. If you're a Bowser main, you're not going to be the best. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Yoshi, you can win. I think you can win a super major. Do I think you can win multiple super majors, or like in like 2 out of 3, or have it work out so that you only win one, but everyone else doesn't win enough, so they're not over you, and maybe you could pull that off. I kind of doubt it, but I'm willing to be open to it. And I will say, if you are going to be, I think Yoshi is on that line. Like
Yoshi is exactly on that line.
Right.
Exactly on that line.
And the interesting thing about Yoshi in particular is AMSA is putting out some interesting opinions in favor of Yoshi being able to do it. I'm talking about being able to beat Marth and Falco recently, which people have their own opinions on. But again, he's saying that, and his results are getting better, so makes sense.
He was fucked up Hungry Box. That was like that was gross. It was
insane. Said no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
Well, the only other thing I could really say about that is, it doesn't, unless you are, maybe top 50 in the world or something. The character thing, especially if you're going to play Yoshi, that doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, it takes a long time for the problem to be the character. It specifically in the conversation of being the best player in the world, that's when the character thing comes up. But literally, like, it's one of those things where like there's just like years and years and years of things that you're going to need to handle first. So like I would not worry if you're trying to like be the best player in the world thing, like the journey has so much more in for you than like just that. And all I can really say is like, here's the things to help you deal with trying that journey with Yoshi and the things you should be doing. But like, I can't everyone's everyone's journey is so fucking different. Like your childhood is like part of like the journey along that path, you know, like it's so hard to like pick like a thing that'll really stop it. So I think that's why the question's so hard to answer, is that like it's on this weird like final layer of the Melee journey that's just like, I don't know, like that's just like it's hard. I don't think there's like a book on that yet, you know.
Yeah, and I also want to throw in one more little thing, which is that like whether or not it's possible to be the best, it's definitely possible to get really, really, really good.
Yeah.
You could be
and
the
I think
best on a given super major, and that might
Yeah.
be good enough, which is
Yeah,
fine.
that-
That's totally okay.
That is
Yeah.
definitely a definition that
You do
each-
not need
yeah.
Melee stats to say that you are number one for the year to feel that
Right.
way.
Rankings,
Yeah.
they're so like arbitrary a lot of the time. Like it just depends on the mood of the ballots that day, you know? Like it's like a
that doesn't have like being literally number one in the world doesn't have to be your goal
Yeah.
to get really, 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 really good. And you could get, I mean, you could be top 30 with like Roy, right? Like
Roy, yeah.
if Don't Test Me
Maybe.
can be
It-
top 30 in the world with Roy or whatever on IBDW's stream list that he made on stream 2020 whatever year, 2020 whatever month it was that
Yeah.
you know Don't Test Me was in full effect. Like yeah, I mean I think that should be a valid goal for people. I don't think people need to come into Melee and say, well, I want to be the best.
Yeah.
Like yeah, you can get really, really, really good and be better than pretty much everybody and be respected by the entire
Mhm.
community, which I think
Yeah.
is honestly for a lot of people, quote unquote, enough. I mean, yeah, obviously it depends what your goals are, but
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, don't rule that out.
Well, I'd say we covered that pretty well. What do you think, Joshi?
I think it was great to talk to you. I learned a lot. It was
Hell yeah.
it was awesome.
Thank you, Joshi. Yeah, good luck with your Yoshi
Yeah.
adventure.
I can't wait to hear about Joshi's results in 2020 whatever.
Yoshi the Yoshi man.
Joshi the Yoshi.
That's right.
I will try my best.
Well,
Mhm.
good luck.
yeah, good
And
luck.
you got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Yes, I want to shout out first of all Fizzy for making Slippy,
Mhm.
because I live in a region where there's like, I think I'm the only person who plays Melee here,
Oh.
Oh, wow.
and I can just play Slippy, and
Mm.
just after 2 seconds I have someone to play versus.
Very nice.
It's so
It's
Great
awesome.
feeling. Yeah.
That's good.
And I want to shout out everyone who plays Melee.
Mhm.
Heck
Oh
yeah.
hell yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. Which includes us.
Hey, let's go,
Hey,
Lars.
yo, let's go,
Nice.
Let's
Magi.
go. Yeah, let's go,
Woo!
Magi. All right, Joshi. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Yes,
That's right.
you too.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace out, Joshi.
I love it.
So I think that we have one more question. And it's gonna be I believe a returning caller. What is
Yeah.
up? Welcome back to the Golden Guardians Radio Melee Show. Yokai knows. The final question of the day. What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
Yo.
Where are you calling in from? What's your question?
Well, I'm calling in from the Citadel out in space. You know how it be.
Okay, facts.
Last
Love
time
that.
I was told that, I was calling in from Jersey every time, so I figured I'd switch it up a little bit, call from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
love
Well, the
that.
connection sounds really good. So
yeah,
that's good.
no, they got
Yeah.
it. They got some good stuff out here,
Yeah. Fair.
So anyways, my question is, being from a region that very often has pretty strong players coming through.
Yeah.
How important do you guys think it is for top players to show up to their locals and really compete in them, supporting them, and foster that community? Because out here, the closest local I have is New York, and a lot of the top players come out, and I think it's awesome. Yeah, I think it's a great time. And so I was wondering, how important do you think that is for creating a local scene?
Badger, you go to your locals, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Actually?
Louisiana is really, really tight knit. We've been a under 20 player community for a long time, and only recently have we
man.
kind of gotten past that 20. We're starting to hit 25 and stuff, you know.
Oh,
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess it's interesting because Louisiana Melee in particular is we have every day we have active Discord calls where people are in there and we're having a good time and stuff. So I think honestly I don't know if there is like there's probably a bigger conversation about like whether top players from a region are obligated to show up to their locals to support it. But I do think like I always this always somehow comes back to the trans thing. But I guess like for me like the comfort in the community matters a lot. Like at the end of the day, if you really know everyone, if the person is having a good time, then like they should go to locals. I mean, I think like it's like a two birds with one stone thing. You get to support your locals, but you also get to have a good time. But I'm not going to say like top players are obligated to show up to somewhere they don't want to go. Like if they're not going to have a good time, or if like if top players are busier nowadays, they literally are. They have if you're sponsored, you have like a lot more streaming obligations, and you have content like being like quote unquote content creator. You kind of have like this weird back of your head feeling that like you should be working on a thing, and it's really hard sometimes to focus on other things. And I think that question really depends. And I think at the end of the day, no one should be like obligated or forced to do a thing. But like if it is definitely better for the scene for sure. If top players go, it is just better.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not an obligation, but it
would
is
be nice.
healthier.
It would be nice, and I encourage top players to do it. And but I don't think it should be like a hey, if you don't do this, then you're a bad like top player. You're a bad person. Which like I think I get that vibe sometimes, which I don't think that's definitely not the case. Like I think everyone also just got their own thing. Like everyone's kind of just maybe it's not even Melee related. They just got some shit going on. They don't have the social energy. It's just. It really should just be kind of up to the person, but with a little nudge, like, hey, it'd be nice every once in a while if you show up. Maybe you don't really feel like it, but like you have maybe you're gonna see someone you haven't seen in a while. Then you should go.
That makes
but,
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, like just as somebody who I think is I mean, I hope I'm an up and coming player, but as someone who's coming up, going to the locals and like having these top players come through. It really gives me a goal of like, okay, it gives me a sense of like I can play really good players and know how, and see how well I do, and even have the chance to overcome them sometimes.
Yeah,
and
right.
that's like that to me is like super super sick.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't really know from a top player perspective, where it's just like, how would they feel going to a tournament knowing that they are just gonna win? So like. I think the best
that's
example
not as fun for the top player.
Yeah,
No,
also,
I can't imagine.
We don't want to go if we're the
Yeah.
top seed, and if we lose, everyone talks about it.
Right. I was about
Cody-
to say that specifically. There's a lot of like additional like you do need to have like a certain amount of like acceptance with yourself and like some sort of detachment from your results to be comfortable. Like, hey, sometimes you're just gonna fucking lose. Sometimes like there might be some shit, and like of course you shouldn't just like generically say like, oh yeah, some like it's RNG of whether I'm gonna lose or not. But like I think playing against worse players is like there's this interesting thing that happens in Melee where like if you're grinding like a matchup at top level, like understanding the final layer of the matchup kind of is like, oh, if this Fox player respects all of these lower level of rules, then like the top level matchup should play out like this. And like sometimes if you go to a local, you play against someone who's not respecting those rules, and you have to like kind of remember how to do those things, and like it ends up being kind of this own little mini game. Like it's almost like you're in this permanent pool, like a round 1 pool, that like a round 2 pool, like of remembering all these lower levels. And like sometimes like it's like weirdly like it's very stressful if you are like very attached to your results. So sometimes it's not even a matter of like, oh, I don't feel like winning. It's sometimes like, man, like I don't have the mental energy to like be scared of losing, and that's gonna happen. Like, and sometimes I think it's a good enough skill to like invest in to go to a local specifically with like, hey, I'm like gonna face this fear. I'm gonna face this specific factor of the game where I'm gonna have to like remember, like kind of like live adapt and like try to remember like page 4 of the Fox matchup whenever Fox players don't respect like the full hop rule. Then like I have to play specifically like this to exploit it. And like it ends up being really complicated and really stressful too for the top player. And like you definitely have a lot to lose, which is why I think a lot of time like if like it usually should be they're going to the local to have a good time with the people outside of the tournament. The tournament's very secondary to the top players, I think. And like it should be about like that community building or like the seeing your friends type of thing. And honestly, sometimes communities are just like I've definitely felt the vibe of someone who's only interested in beating me and doesn't care about me for in any other way. And like sometimes that's like very like I don't really want to deal with it.
That's whack.
Right. So like it's you have to like I think it's just a lot about like honestly focusing on not to say like you have to accommodate for the top player to like, oh, like, give them a good time specifically because they're the top player. But like, I think having a good community, like good community respect for everyone, and like having a good environment for everyone, and like making the competitive stuff like not as least toxic, like because the competitive like experience is so like it's so vulnerable to your like you're very vulnerable to yourself, and I feel like having environments that like even slightly make that a little bit worse can sometimes like be the thing that like prevents someone from going. So I think like almost pushing for like everyone to kind of be very respectful, and like, you know, letting people fuck off if they lose, and like not really like thinking too hard about what they did and stuff, and just like, I don't know, I think all of those things kind of like, it's really important to have like, like in Louisiana, if I lose, I'm fine, like I don't care, like it's not that I don't care, it's just that I will deal with that myself in my own journey, but I'm happy that the people around me aren't going to make that worse, and
Yeah.
I feel confident about that, and I think that's why I go to locals, because I'm confident that that's not like a thing that like I have to really, you know, worry about, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, so I wanna know like another perspective. So like if you go to a local, right, and you have there's like a chance, right? Or like you
Mm.
play somebody, like say you're like top seed or top player, whatever, and you play someone locally and you lose. Um, like, do you think that because how do I frame this? Aklo, for example,
Mm.
he comes to the nightclubs pretty often.
Mm.
And like he like never loses.
Mm.
And
He
it's
just taunts
actually
on everybody.
he just I mean he doesn't actually, but it'd be fine if he did because everyone knows he's cool.
Yeah.
But like yeah, but like I think it's like every single time he's been to the nightclub
Mm.
for the past I don't even know how long, he's just won. Like
Mhm.
uncontested, no one's taken a set. Like it's just insane. And I was kind of thinking like would like he still keeps coming back, which is really
Mm.
cool. But I wonder like if he'll ever get to a point where he's just like, you know, whatever, I'm kind of better than this. So I was wondering, and it's funny because I told him this after he won VIP this weekend. I was
Mm.
like, look, I'm glad you won. I really am. I'm happy for you. You know, you're a local. You come here all the time. So like, I'm really glad that you were able to hold it down. But somebody needs to beat you, man. Somebody needs to beat you. And I wonder, like, from that top player's perspective, like, how would you feel? Like, would you feel more motivated to be more active in your local scene if you knew there was someone there that could actually take you down?
Yeah, I mean,
It
I
depends.
guess. Oh, go ahead.
I can make it quick. I was just gonna say it depends.
Mm.
If you know, they're not making we have it established that locals are not going to count for rankings as much, and maybe that's fine. And if
Mhm.
you want to go and test yourself, I think that's fine. Then it's probably like a good part of it. But like Magi was saying, if you just want to go and hang out and have a good time, but then people are going to be like, oh, but number whatever in the world lost to, you know, someone that's not
Mhm.
ranked, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Then it's annoying and it's
Right.
not going to
Yeah.
help. So it
Yeah.
depends, I think.
Yeah. It definitely. If you're confident you're gonna win, it does make it easy to like, oh, I'm coming here to hang out anyway, so it's nice and like to get to do it. I losing is always like, as I was kind of describing earlier, I always feel like there's like usually like a specific thing. There's like a thing that happened when you lose, and like I'm like I'm pretty down to like, oh, if I lost, go look at the VOD. Like, what was the thing that happened? Okay, let me work on the thing. All right, cool. Let's go back to local and try to like beat that fucker and try to like recreate that scenario again. And just to, like, I feel like there's always something to learn. I think this is actually something that you said, PP, is that if you're not JV5ing someone, there's still something that
Yep.
you're doing wrong,
That's
right?
that's a quote from your boy.
Yep. And I think that mentality helps a lot with like, if you do lose at a local, sick, there's probably a bit of information. Even if it's something that you understand, maybe it's something that like you need to like make sure is like in your unconscious, conscious, whatever. I forgot the phrasing for that, you know. Um there's something that needs to still be like a little bit polished just to make sure that, you know, you're clean. And it does suck when someone like takes like writes a tweet about J Salt beating Magi at fucking local again. But you know, I think with the right community and the right environment, and you know, honestly, it really just depends on the individual. That's why I think PP is right in that like sometimes there are people who can be like, oh, it's like I lost a local, that's okay, whatever, I'll come back next time. Or maybe there's people who do struggle with like those results based thinking, and it does struggle with people's like perspective. And honestly, maybe there's just a community that's particularly toxic about that specific thing, where it's like, fuck these guys, I don't want to deal with this stress. I can learn this shit by going on Slippy, playing against an unranked player, or like playing against my friend in Direct Connect, and not feeling so judged, and feeling like I can work on this journey that's already difficult by myself, and not so like involved with everyone else. Even though I do think that's a part of the journey, and you like eventually, like Melee is such a public event thing that like you probably do have to encounter it eventually. But I definitely don't mind someone who's just like, I can't deal with that right now, or like this is not the right environment for me, or maybe this is just not for me right now, or ever.
Yeah.
It's complex, I think.
Yeah, it feels very much like it varies from person to person. Like some people just deal with like
Even
losses more.
honestly,
differently.
it's kind of funny. Like even for me, like not to take too much longer, but it's kind of funny because like even though I'm not, obviously I've never been the best in NorCal because there's just been insane players here. Like when I was
the rough
levels,
region,
there was always
to-
PPU, SFAT Shroom.
Yeah,
I know a thing or two about rough regions.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Like even for me, there was a period where I was kind of discouraged going to locals because even though I'm not like a top player to that
top
extent,
seeds in general definitely experience this.
And it's still like, I don't know, just being like a top commentator or whatever. Like the notoriety level is to where people would still like pop up.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, I
or
beat
they'll
this
talk
guy who's
trash,
super
or they'll be
famous.
like,
Exactly.
This commentator know what he's talking about because even this person beat him. Like that's nonsense,
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah, it's definitely a thing, but that's why for me, especially lately, like I'm really interested in, like, okay, so the tournament Magi came out 2-3 weeks ago. Down Throwdown, that was kind of a thing that Homemade Waffle. I think like Homemade Waffles, me, a couple of us in NorCal, like we're really trying to cultivate. I think NorCal had a golden era of like locals with the Foundry, which is a tournament the PP's obviously come to, and I think there are like locals that are really fun to come to no matter what for top players and for anyone. I should really just extend this and say forever because it's about the experience, and it's about, like Magi said, it's about community and it's the friends that we made along the way.
Well, so true.
The Foundry was the friends we made along the way, right? And I think that
absolutely.
Especially coming out of COVID when everyone was basically locked in their rooms for 2 years, I think people are starting to realize that, like, especially in Melee, which is a game where we had this for a long time and then it kind of got taken away from us out of nowhere.
Right.
We were like, whoa. Yeah, that interpersonal connection is important and dope. And cultivating the right kind of, like, even just finding the right venue and like finding places that people are like down to come to and down to hang out. I think that's like what really makes local tournaments, like majors are a whole nother thing. But for locals, finding that, striking that vibe is like something that I think local TOs aspire to. And I think that like the perfect local is the one where, a top player feels like they want to just come and hang out anyway, even if they don't enter, honestly, a lot of time. Amsa would go to a lot of his Red Bull Gaming Sphere tournaments in Tokyo and just commentate, right?
Yeah. Can I piggyback off that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that you could do something as a top player without entering. You can commentate. Mango just lets his lets some SoCal stuff run on his stream, which I think is great for the scene. So there are other things you can do to promote your local scene. Doesn't even have to show up.
Speaking of Mango, he used to go to SSS and he would just commentate SSS. Remember that with Blur or whatever.
Yeah. I think I 100% agree with PP. There's a lot of different ways, and just like, because at the end of the day, I think that's the goal, is the community building. That's like what the top player would do, entering the tournament or not. So, I think finding the right balance of like having a community you care about, and also like having it line up with the journey and like your own just life. Like if entering a local is too stressful right now, maybe going to the tournament, going like on commentary, or like just hanging out, playing friendlies with like the new players. Like I think all of that's like very, there are just ways where it definitely just works out. And if the objective is just to, community grow, then,
For sure. I always think it's really cool when top players come out, even if they're not competing, just to like hang out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Meet the new talent and stuff.
Last small thing that I also think is important to establish that I at least from my own experience, it's like there's like an imposter syndrome to it or something, but I never feel like that important. Like, oh yeah, me going to this local is gonna have a big impact. Like I'm just like I only see my perspective of like being a human being that like I mean, I don't know, like just my own weird perspective of people probably not like, being excited to show up to the tournament just to see me. Like that seems like a weird concept to internalize. And I think sometimes that even may play a factor to it where like some players just may feel like, oh, it's not that important. Like I understand as a concept how being a top player and showing up is important, but it's really hard for me to feel immersed into this world where like, oh yeah, I am the important person that's single-handedly having a positive effect on the tournament. It's just very it's hard to accept that. So I think that's also a weird part of it. And that's why it also sometimes may be difficult for the top player to understand that. Just like it just feels weird to say that it's like simply by existing in this venue, I am contributing.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard, I think.
I think that's just hard even beyond the top. I think that's just hard in
Yes.
general because people are like,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, you're so cool, you're so nice in here." Like I'm just a person.
Yeah,
I
like,
don't know.
I'm
This is
just a
weird.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just a
it's
regular,
weird. It is very weird.
regular
But yeah.
old individual.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I mean, well said on all counts, everyone all around. Thank you so much, Yokai
thank
Nels,
you
for
guys.
calling in. It's a great
Yeah.
question. And you got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Yeah, I mean, they hardly need a shout out, but NYC Melee, that whole team, Dark Gen
Yeah,
X,
shout out Dark Gen X.
Nico, aka Ryo Beat, Brando, Phil Nolan, Jib, everybody on that team is just incredible. They best local in the world. I'll say it.
Yeah, I mean it's
I'll
hard to
boldly say it.
compete. It's
And
hard
it-
to compete.
And an extra special shout out to Willie P, who I won $50 from in a rematch. So taking a shouting out.
Very nice.
People out. But,
Hate to see it.
Nah, well, this weekend at Starstruck, which is like a NJ like regional thing, we are. He said double or nothing, so that's what we're doing.
All right, tune in.
Yeah.
And I'm also calling someone out, but someone else out, but I'm not gonna do it today. I'll do it at the nightclub. So, tune
Very
in.
nice.
All right.
All right, thanks guys. I
Hey,
appreciate it.
take care.
A lot of tri-state lore.
Oh,
yeah, shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well,
right.
a lot of good questions. And there is one more question that we'll need from you this time, Magi.
Oh fuck, I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Okay, well,
Oh,
guess
okay,
what?
okay.
We're going to stall a little bit so that you can think about it.
Ooh,
And
okay,
we're going to be
question.
asking for the community voice from Magi. That's right, the question that we can ask to the YouTube comments. Anything you want. It can be funny, it can be serious. One time we thought about who Elijah Wood main. One time we thought about what would make people go to locals. So we've had all kinds of questions on here. You can pull from what you've talked about today. You can pull from anything that you're just curious about, anything you want the people to respond to, anything you're interested in.
Oh god, this is I hate that all the questions come to mind feel so generic and they feel so like okay.
You could ask a generic question, but just put a little twist on it.
Yeah.
and do your
I'm
own
trying
thing.
to think.
That's classic.
Yeah.
That's classic.
Okay. I'm assuming most viewers are going to be like competitors for Melee, so I want to ask something about competing.
Okay.
So I know the prompt's going to start with in your own competitive journey. I just need to figure out the second part. In your own competitive journey.
Do you want to ask them about?
I'm trying to figure out if I want to ask about like more specifically to their own personal journey of like, oh, like what was a player that like mattered to you, or like if you want to like actually, I'll pick that because I personally have like a lot of I have a lot of pride in Louisiana Smash, and like shouts to Taylor and Howard, both like very, very important like elements of like my journey as a player like this whole time. Can you talk about like or in your own competitive journey, who was someone, including like local players, of course, people that people may not know, like who had like the biggest impact in your career? I think like those stories are always really important to me. I think.
Yeah.
Like, who was
formative experiences?
Yeah, especially local players. I'll put that as an asterisk.
Hey,
not just
local players.
Yeah, not just the top player that you saw at Evo 2013 who won and inspired you to play or anything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like who was John Falco that told you about how to fast fall a laser and was there with you every single tournament
Yeah.
to like
every
you know,
single time you fast fill the laser.
right, yeah. Like who comes to mind? I think I want to hear stories about that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stories of that nature.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. When I moved to NorCal and I started going to the Foundry, I remember being inspired by a local player named Weedlord, who once won a tournament match with 4 Falcon Punches. Every single stuff was taken with Falcon Punch, and it opened my eyes to a whole new world of Super Smash Bros. Melee, and things were never the same for me after seeing that.
Yeah,
play. I
that'll
think
do
that guy
it.
quit, by the way. I think that guy quit.
Oh, he quit. Damn.
Yeah.
I-
Well, I think if you get Falcon Punch 4 times on
Oh,
stream,
the guy who got
the
Falcon
guy who
Punch.
got Falcon
Yeah,
Punch 4 times.
Yeah, that'll do it.
There
Yeah.
are people
that'll
that are
do it.
gonna. There are people that
Yeah.
are gonna quit from video games forever after they get double Falcon punched.
Yeah,
I've seen a
4
clip.
is like
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's
you're-
common now.
that might, like you might have to contact the Geneva Convention or whatever at that
That
point. Like
seems like a war
there
crime.
is like a certain like line that you have to not cross.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
you guys answer this question next episode, right? Not this episode.
Well,
That's
sometimes
right.
we talk about it for ourselves.
Yeah, we
Sort
talk
of-
about it
Yeah,
a little
can,
bit,
can I
but-
hear a little bit, like a little small sneak peek of PP's answer?
Sure, sure. So if there was a local hero that inspired me, I think I only have one answer, and that
Mm.
would be the man, the myth, LOZR, Legend
Yeah,
of Zelda
you
Rules.
teamed with him, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah, okay.
and
I know a little bit about this.
my
this
first
username.
tournament, he was just a real friendly guy. I didn't even know he was a top high level player, at least for
Mm.
the state at the time. And I was playing Mario, and he was like, "Oh man, you play Mario and you're doing pretty good. All right, well I'm gonna play Mario in winners finals," and he lost, but he did
Aw.
pretty good.
Wow.
He did pretty good, and I was like, "Oh wow, he's doing this for me. Like this is my first tournament," and I was
awesome.
so touched by that. And he was willing to play friendlies with me, and he was just a real awesome guy.
That's awesome.
Really made my experience wonderful and really comfortable there. So I mean, shout outs
Mhm.
to him. He still comes in my chat sometimes and says,
That's
"What up,
sick.
boy?" So he's,
Hell,
he's still around. Yeah,
oh,
he's a good guy.
That's so awesome. Hell yeah. Well, there you go. I did it.
No, it's a great
Yeah.
question. I love
Yeah.
love giving answers like that.
Yeah.
So that's
The
awesome.
Yeah, that
lore.
is
I
really
love
cool.
hearing about lore. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I guess to all the Slippy kids out there, if there are any of you who have never been to a local,
You have a week.
well,
Yeah,
you have a week.
show up.
But maybe, hey, I don't know. Maybe you ran into that top player on Slippy one time, and they
Mhm.
sent you
Yeah.
a heartwarming GG's message, and maybe
Yeah,
that's
streams count. Streams count if you talk to a top
streams
player.
count. Yep, streams
Magi's
count.
stream at
I was in
SSP
so and
Magi.
so's
Mhm.
SSP Magi, and I
So
gifted,
Right.
true.
Good
gifted a
plug.
sub, and Magi thanked me in a very endearing way.
Yeah.
That's my story. It inspired me to
Mm.
become a top 50 player in Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Hell
Very
yeah.
nice.
Awesome.
Well, hey, thank you so much for offering the community voice. Thank you so much for offering your time, your wisdom,
Mhm.
your
It was
experience, Magi.
so much fun. I wish we had more time to talk.
Well,
Yeah.
we'd love to have you back. And
Oh, hell yeah.
thank you so much, Toph, holding it down, the knowledge, everything already, man. And
Definitely.
Thank
And
you.
thank
to our
you
callers.
to everyone at home, all our
Mhm.
callers. And if you were watching on YouTube and you're wondering, how do I call in a Radio Melee? Well, you know where to find us. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. East Coast time, 5 p.m.
Mhm.
Central time,
Yeah.
4,
That's
4
right.
p.m. Mountain time.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And way
Yep.
too late European time. Anyway, this
That's
is Radio
exactly
Melee
right.
signing out. Bye.
Peace.